Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast, where I, your host, Xavier Cruz, a lifelong wrestling fan, will take a lifelong friend through the action, the joys, and the drama of the world of professional wrestling. My co-host, Kelsey Silva, has been bitten by the wrestling bug, and I want to invite you to join us as I take her through the moments that made me a fan. So if you're new to wrestling and would like to get brought up to speed, or a fan who would like to relive some classic matches, promos, and segments through fresh eyes, join us as we embark on a journey through the Attitude Era and beyond. Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. This week, we watched the October 28th, 1996 edition of Monday Night Raw, and the match card is as follows. We had Double J, Jessie James versus Salvatore Sincere. We had Crush with Clarence Mason with Aldo Montoya. We had Billy Gunn of the Smoking Guns versus Freddie Joe Floyd. And in the main event, we had the British Bulldog taking on the WWF champion, Shawn Michaels. All right, let's get into it. Yeah. So
it's crazy how there were only like those few matches, but it was like so much happened.
Yes, it was like it's like reading a book that's like really thin but really like thick in content, you know what I mean? It's like a Tuesdays with Maury, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Like,
oh my
short
god, totally.
book, but wow, did that punch me in the head, you know?
Yeah, like even a short before a movie. One of those like Pixar shorts that used to gut you and then you had to like watch a full length movie right after, and you're just like, how do I even carry on after this?
No, 100%. So we are coming on the heels of an episode that was wild. So last week already had us spinning because that was our return episode from the Buried Alive pay-per-view, and we are barreling towards Survivor Series. So the episode opens with a little kind of recap of what we missed the night prior if we didn't watch Superstars or Heats or whatever extra shows that they are currently running during this time, which we don't, because we have jobs and lives. So they gave us a little recap of Stone Cold Steve Austin attacking the already injured Brian Pillman, thus injuring him further. And we're going to get back into that a little bit further down the episode. So there's going to be more of that. They just kind of teased us with a little, here's what you missed on Glee.
Yeah.
So it opens with Double J, Jessie James, coming down to the ring in his best bowling attire. And we upon his like entry to the arena, Kelsey goes, "Oh, him again? I thought we were done."
It had been a couple of weeks and I was like, hopefully that was just a fluke. This whole real Double J, blah blah blah. Like, hopefully they were like meh and just moved along.
First of all, I'm starting to take umbrage with the fact that they keep calling him the real Double J, because they keep referencing a wrestler, one, that isn't in the company anymore, and two, if you're trying to distinguish him as a different person, like, why do you keep, like, every time that he is on camera, say something that immediately puts another person in your mind?
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because like you say Double J and everybody thinks Jeff Jarrett, who has previously been watching. Like, that's what they've called him the entirety that he was there. So now that they're just like calling him the real Double J, it's just like, it's, if you want him to be a kind of standalone person, you're not doing a very good job of making him stand out in that regard. So true.
And the fact, to add insult to injury, they go the real Double J, Jessie James. Just too much.
It's just just call him Jessie James. Like, that's fine.
Jessie James is fine, because also Jessie James is like a very well-known name that carries a lot of weight. So I feel like you could just go with that. Like, that's fine.
Because that already should give you some kind of like gunslinger, Western, train robber kind of vibes. Like, that's that. So like, I don't understand why, like, if the name is already giving you a connotation that like gives you badass, like, why are we still associating him with like this whole weird lip syncing arc? Like, I just think it's like, so it's such a stretch that it's been stretched too thin. What is it like? What has Bilbo said? Like, butter over too much bread. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's not.
When does the line finally snap? Yeah. When does the line finally dink? Like, and his entrance music, is also, I can't wait to see my baby tonight. And I was
of course
I'm done. I'm so done. Obviously. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
The title track to his life. And so we're getting like through the match. We haven't seen Salvatore Sincere in a couple weeks. He's just kind of, again, we know what when we get this like this kind of crop of wrestlers, we kind of know what's up.
What's going on? Yeah.
We are, getting introduced or reintroduced to Jessie James as a single star. He's gonna come out on top.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Jessie James is a very like unorthodox like wrestler. Like he doesn't like look conventionally like a wrestler. Like he doesn't have like the build that's like extraordinary, or like there's nothing like that screams wrestler about him, but he's very creative in the ring. Like he pulls off a lot of like good counters. He's got some pretty like interesting moves. Like he moves well. So he has that like going for him. It's just this package is so bland.
Yes.
And like, you know what I mean? It's like they're giving us this like country singer kind of package, but then they're also keep mentioning the fact that he was like in the military, but then they also give him this like weird Western kind of name. And so it's just like, what's the plot is essentially my question.
No, 100%. It's so true. And like, you're so right. It really looks like they just plucked somebody off of the street and were like, hey, would you love to wrestle on Monday Night Raw tonight? And he's just like, sure.
But the thing is, like, that can be like appealing.
Yes.
If you do that correctly.
If
you know what I mean?
do that, yes. And it's just they're trying to do too much. And sometimes less is more. Like, again, think about Stone Cold, who's like, he is just so, not that he's less, but like he's like so solidified in his brand and exactly who he is and what he does and whatever.
Right.
And not to say there doesn't like there should be a lack of creativity, because you can go so many places with one vision. Like even the Undertaker, you can go so many places with that vision, and it's just like it's just all over the place. If they even did like a somebody who is like a veteran coming back and being a wrestler, that is sick, and that is cool, and that is amazing, and that could be like something really an incredible like path to follow.
Right.
But they almost mention it like offhand.
Right.
And I'm like, we should have led with that. Like you said, when we talked about it, they buried the lead. They really buried the lead, and they really could have done something with that, I feel.
Right. Right. It's not like that's not like nothing. They have like all of these pictures of him like as like a soldier, and I was like, okay, that is a character if you want it to be one.
He was like lifting weights in the desert with like it's like a stick and like bags of sand, because that's what all they had. Like it was crazy, those pictures. And I was like, we should have done that.
Right, because I'm more intimidated by that guy.
100%.
Than the guy coming out in this like bowling like shoe ugly attire. Like no. So that's where I'm at with Jessie James right now. It's just like I feel like they like didn't really give us like a solid idea of who this man is supposed to be. So now we're being just kind of like presented and like being expected to kind of believe in him, but like I don't know who he is. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that's gonna take some work. We need to narrow that down a little bit before I think people like are gonna get in like on it, because you're basing his character off of somebody that doesn't work there anymore. So it's just weird.
Yeah, and he's doing all these like crazy little like dance moves in between.
Right.
The Elvis dance moves. And that
that was weird, not gonna lie. And a little uncomfortable. And like, sure, if that's what if you want to make that like your shtick, then like you gotta go like to the other end of that and make it like so obnoxious and so like silly that like you have to like just get on board. You know what I mean?
Instead of us going like, this is weird, we're like, oh,
this guy
James again,
right.
this silly goose. Like we would totally buy in. We would totally buy in. But now we're just like, what is this? Very confusing. Sorry.
So the next we kind of get a little kind of announcement about the Hall of Fame, because that's upcoming by Doc Samson, which gets interrupted by Stone Cold. And this is the episode I think where Stone Cold is the focal point of the episode.
He 100%.
Right. We are basing the show around him. This is the first time I think like the entire episode was thought out with, okay, like we're gonna have Stone Cold kind of like constantly interrupting, and his gripe is, why are we not paying attention to me? I clearly am the one that's like bringing in the money. I am the one, like, so we start seeing he interrupts Doc Samson's announcement of the Hall of Fame, being like, nobody cares about these old farts. It's my time. And that's going to be a kind of like a theme that we're starting to get, is Stone Cold is done waiting. He is no longer going to wait for his turn. He's taking what he wants, and he's taking it now. And that's kind of the gist of where we're kind of headed. And that's kind of, we're really seeing Stone Cold, like you said, like he's settled into his character. He's found who the voice of Stone Cold is. And now we're starting to see him really like utilize that as a focal point of entertainment for everybody else. Because he interacted in more segments with different people than anybody else has in one episode.
Everyone.
He interacted with Brian Pillman. He interacted with Bret Hart. He interacted with Doc Samson, with Vince. Like, he was everywhere in this episode.
Yeah, and I feel like he has a point, because, you know, now you saying that, you think about like when we first started this podcast, it was after the very first Austin 316, right?
Correct.
He had just won, what was it?
The King of the Ring.
Yes, he had just won King of the Ring, sorry. And like then, and he's been here and there, but he hasn't been like as present as you would expect him to be after winning something so crazy and having that insane, iconic speech that he made. And then he kind of just like, he's been in and out. But today, this episode was the first time where I was like, oh, like he in this piece, like he is in this piece. Like, and like you said, it really felt like the whole episode was built around incorporating him into every single piece.
Right.
And it was amazing.
And it was done so well.
So well. And not overdone either. Like the perfect amount.
Right. And that I'm very excited, because this is just the beginning of him. We are still like, how good he is currently right now, like this is still very much the beginning of this character. Like, we are very much in like the, like, he's still making mistakes in this, like, in this role. He hasn't even like put the polish on it yet. So
which is
like,
insane, because it's amazing.
Exactly. So after that, we do get a kind of a rundown of what is going to be expected at their Survivor Series.
Which sounds insane.
It's shaping up to be a great pay-per-view. So as we already know, the main event is going to be Shawn Michaels versus Psycho Sid for the WWF Championship. It was announced that we were going to have a classic Survivor Series match. So this is kind of your first Survivor Series. So this is Survivor Series is one of the big four pay-per-views that we kind of like have brushed on. Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. They're kind of the staples of the WWF as far as these are their biggest shows of the year. These are the shows that they put the most effort into. So a Survivor Series like style match is basically a like, it's a tag team match, but usually it has like either like 8 competitors or 10 competitors, where it's split to teams. There's usually like a team captain that's like named after them, and it's elimination style. So your objective is to get through the opposing team's roster of superstars before they can get through yours. And are
they out all at the same time?
No, you have to tag. It's a tag team match.
Oh, it's a tag team. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it lends itself to some pretty interesting scenarios depending on how stacked teams are, or just kind of how they decide to like play it. It gets very chaotic, obviously, with that many bodies. And sometimes you really like find yourself in situations where it's like one versus an entire team, or like, so it's very enticing in that way. And that's kind of the draw of the Survivor Series, is this kind of match. That's its like signature. We also found out that The Undertaker will be returning to face Mankind with Paul Bearer suspended above the ring in a steel cage. So I am assuming to prohibit his interaction and interference. So thoughts?
Because then thoughts. This is insane. And they said it so casually.
And
then, because first of all, we haven't seen The Undertaker. They like briefly mentioned last week that there was like a sighting, but it wasn't confirmed, like as if he's Bigfoot, and which he is, but like
no, honestly,
they were like, oh yeah, BT dubs, Undertaker is totally fine, and he is gonna be in a levitating cage with Mankind at the Garden, and it should be a good time for all. And anyway, and I was like, wait, what did he just say? Okay, up in the, and they're in a, the two of the, oh, okay.
Correct.
I was just like, Buried Alive was so crazy, and I was like, how do they top Almost Homicide? Almost Homicide in a pile of dirt, and lightning striking a tombstone. Like, how do they top it? And then they're like, so we're gonna do levitating cage Mankind, Paul Bearer can't intervene. No one can interfere. It's just the two of them. That is thoughts. Like, what do you...
Thoughts? Listen, just doing my job.
I'm just don't shoot the messenger. No, that's just great. Like, what is that conference room like? What is that meeting like? Like, I just want to be a fly on the wall for that meeting. Like, I just imagine that meme of, is it Charlie from It's Always Sunny, where he's like smoking a cigarette and it's like that wall. I just imagine
like red.
What about a steel cage, but it's off the ground, it's floating in midair, and everyone's like,
yes. And then they said, let's put Paul Bearer in it. This man can barely get in the ring. Put him in a steel cage and then suspend him like a
wait.
Like an animal above the ring.
Wait a minute. Paul Bearer is in the cage? I thought he was... Wait a minute.
Paul Bearer is going to be in the cage above the ring while they fight.
Oh, okay.
What did you think this was?
I thought they were fighting
in a suspended steel cage.
Yes,
that would be insane.
Is that not what they're doing?
No, they're fighting like a normal match.
Still insane though. But why are they putting him in the cage?
I assume so that he can't interfere.
See,
that was my 2 cents. That's what I thought.
The complete opposite direction. It was like, okay, so Paul Bearer can't interfere. So what they'll do is they'll put the Undertaker and Mankind in a cage and suspend him, the two of them, and then they fought.
They're gonna remove Paul Bearer from that situation.
Oh, all right. I need to call the WWE because that's the next idea. Unless they've done it since, like levitating steel cage match. That's pretty sick.
I don't think so. I'm sure the logistics would be
WWE. Call me.
Listen, just generally call us.
No, generally, yeah, just for fun.
So, and then we are also going to get Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, which has just been brewing for a hot minute. So it's shaping up to be a phenomenal pay-per-view. And we didn't even go into the 5-on-5 match as far as who's participating.
Oh yeah, because they showed us the poster and I was like, it's The Rock. It's The Rock.
So it is going to be Triple H's team, the newly crowned Intercontinental Champion. Sickening. With Goldust, Jerry the King Lawler, Crush, and Mr. Perfect.
Worst team ever.
And they will be facing Marc Mero's team, which consists of Marc Mero, the Stalker, Mark Henry, and they debuting Rocky Maivia, aka The Rock, aka Dwayne The Rock Johnson. So that's going to be really exciting because we know The Rock. We know The Rock. We love The Rock.
I'm ready for that eyebrow, girl. I'm ready.
Getting to see the kind of genesis of The Rock is super exciting. That's so fun.
Because it's hard to believe that he debuts basically differently than how he ends up.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's only a completely different person. Yeah, which I love. Like, I'm excited to see. You said, the genesis. Like, it's gonna, because he just looks so like young and like
happy-go-lucky, and he's just happy to be here.
Uninhibited by life's demands yet. Like he's just very like on the poster. Wow.
So
it's weird.
Very
teams.
Exciting.
I have to say though,
very weird teams.
Weird teams. We haven't seen the Stalker in weeks either. Maybe he was out hunting yet another jungle animal that didn't deserve that. But
and I also think we're still like the WWF roster is still pretty thin. So
yeah, it really was giving that. Like I was like, wouldn't have been my choices, but I guess you don't choose your own team. I'm assuming.
I mean, it's the booker who books the matches. So
yeah, because if I was Marc Mero, I would have been like.
Right.
We wouldn't have.
Yeah, maybe not.
That's his business, though. Whatever.
Yeah, right. So the following match, we had a Crush, who was accompanied by his manager Clarence Mason and Aldo Montoya going at it. Basically, this was Crush being massive and huge, and Aldo Montoya not having much to say about any of it. There's one
Yeah.
point where Crush just like absolutely like just yeets Aldo Montoya just like out of the ring at one point so aggressively that it looks like he's just been like hit by a car.
It was bad. Yeah, it was crazy.
And like the disregard that Crush like had for Aldo Montoya's just like life, because he just so cavalierly just like chucked him behind him. It was
Also
great.
like you said, because it was behind. Like it wasn't like
Right.
he was like, sure. Like, because that's the forward momentum, like you
Makes
know.
sense. No,
But
he
he was
like
literally like
yeeted him behind him.
like
Like he was like, all right, all right.
and cleared the ropes, like
Uh,
from the middle
like a
of the
sack of
ring.
potatoes.
It
Like
was and I
hit
know
the deck.
Aldo is more like a tiny,
Like high
jumpy,
flyer guy. Yeah,
but
yeah,
still.
yeah. Mm,
And he didn't even break a sweat. He is pretty scary.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, Crush?
yeah.
Hey, with the face tattoo and the dreads? Yes. Yeah. No. What a guy. What an approachable figure.
Oh my god.
So it was also revealed during this match that Farouk has now aligned himself with Clarence Mason, and Clarence Mason is just out here collecting like superstars like Thanos, just snatching them all up.
I said he's getting all the Infinity Stones. He is
Right.
cleaning
He
house.
has the tag team champions, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. He's got Crush. He now has Farouk. He be popping up everywhere.
Yeah, he has everybody.
We're gonna see what that happens. Apparently, Jim Ross said that there was gonna be big changes coming as far as Farouk goes. So I imagine, or at least I'm hoping, that's going to be a departure from the intergalactic gladiator that we got going on right now,
I hope so.
and something that is kind of going to allow Farouk's personality to come out more naturally. You know what I mean? Because like even like in interviews, he sounds threatening and like that's great, but it doesn't like fit the character that I'm looking at when I look at him. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah,
real.
I'm not
So
expecting the
real.
guy with the bodysuit and the helmet to like sound like, I don't know. It's just like it's not, the character doesn't match his personality, and it
Yes.
shows. Like,
Yeah.
so
And
I'm
like
hoping that there's gonna be a remix there.
there better be. And I thought it was interesting because JR was the one that said, like, when he was on one of his tangents a couple weeks ago, he was like, what is with the helmet? I don't get it. Like, whatever.
Right.
And then JR was like, I've been speaking with Farouk. He wants to like sue Ahmed Johnson for his injury. So I told him he should speak to Clarence Mason. And then
Right.
that is how that came about. And I was
Right.
like, oh, so
Okay.
like hopefully JR is like in on the ground floor with the rebrand that I hope
Right.
is
Is on deck.
forthcoming.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that was
So,
interesting that even like JR was like, yeah, go to see Clarence Mason, because I didn't think they would be like homies at all.
oh yeah.
But
Hey, listen. If it
yeah,
works, it works.
it works.
So we're gonna see what kind of comes of that little combo.
Mhm.
Hopefully it leads to the Ahmed Johnson feud that I'm fiending for.
Like, let's go. Oh, also,
Honestly.
Wildman Marc Mero called in during this
Yes.
match.
Yeah. I was just about to
Which
get there.
was sorry.
Which was no, you're great. Like excellent segue. So he did call in during this match, and we decided the first time that we actually like got behind like Marc Mero. It was like a Marc Mero promo that like stood out, and it was good.
It was
like
great.
it was phenomenal. He went in to be like, because they called it like the perfect hoax, what happened the week prior with Mr. Perfect and Triple H robbing him of the Intercontinental Championship. And so
Thievery.
he said, you call it the perfect hoax, I'm perfectly pissed off. He said, at one point he calls he says that he is going to yank that stringy blonde hair out of Mr. Perfect's fat head, and I lost it. It
Because
was so funny. Not fat head. Not coming
where's the
out.
lie though?
Not coming out with the preschool insults.
I mean, but it's that one we should really pull out of the archives, because that's a good one.
That is a good one.
That is a good one because it's really hurtful. But he was like on such a tangent. We were saying he came this close to dropping an F-bomb. Like he came this close. And I was like,
in it. He was so heated.
So in it, but he stopped himself at the last minute. And then I was like, God, sometimes I wish he just went for it. But it was really good. And Xavier pointed out it was like the perfect pacing, because the phone call ended right as the match got started. So it was like
Yes.
you weren't like what's happening, too many things going on. It was
Right.
like, but
They finally got the timing of the phone call correct. Because
yes.
prior to that, it was just going on throughout the entire match, which made it impossible to pay attention to what was going on. Because
Yes.
usually the match wasn't being called and they were just talking to the person on the phone who has no idea what's going on because they're not
On
currently
the
watching.
phone. Yeah.
Right. Like, so it was just always like chaotic to me. And I was like really not about these like phone call interview things. But the timing of this like actually worked. And I was like,
Yeah.
he like said what he needed to say, did it well, wrapped it up, and like ding ding ding, match started. It
Yep.
was great. And
I
then you're able to transition in a way that makes sense.
Yes. I do want to say something. I've noticed something that I cannot unnotice, and it's usually on the phone calls or like when wrestlers are caught with like an impromptu, like I got to make a speech on the fly. The go-to is like when they start, is like, let me tell you something.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
tell you something, JR. Let me tell you something, Vince McMahon. And I'm always
Right.
like, we're really about to get into it if they say that. Like, so
Right.
when Marc Mero got on, he was like, oh yeah, I'm here. I can hear you, whatever. And then Vince asked him a question about the perfect host. He goes, let me tell you something, Vince McMahon. I was like, ooh, he's about to go in. Let's
Right,
go.
right. And the thing is like I'm so happy that this went so well is because up to this point it's really just been like the only time like you get like any kind of like heat from like Marc Mero and like a personality level is when you mess with Sable. Like
Yes.
so it really just felt like the only way to have an interest in Marc Mero was through Sable. And now this
Yes.
is the first promo where I was like, no, I'm interested in that stand alone. Like
Yes.
because he was
So
wronged and
true.
wants revenge, and now that's a story that makes sense that I can bite into,
Oh
not
my God, you're
just like
so
don't
right.
touch my woman, and it's like okay, like we
Which
got it.
we get it, yes, but also you need to stand alone. Like
Right.
you are, and again, Sable is iconic. She's beautiful. She's amazing. She's obviously a good coach until this very moment, but it was a ruse because Marc Mero stayed winning for the last few weeks.
Right.
But no, it's so true. It suddenly you have stake in the game, which is exactly what we were talking about a couple weeks ago about him. It's like you don't have like you don't have hooks in him. Like you're not like, oh, like what's gonna happen with his storyline? Because you're like, he's just kind of chilling and he doesn't really say anything, and when he does, it's kind of blah.
Lackluster. Yeah.
Yes, this was like, ooh, okay, like something's cooking, like
Right.
something's coming. It
Like
was,
he
yeah,
was he's big mad. Like I
being
felt it.
mad.
Like and
Mm-hmm.
it made you know what I mean. Like I felt that he was selling it in a way that like he was doing his job. Like I believed it. Like I believed he
Yes,
was upset.
he
Um
was pacing on the phone, like he
no,
was like on the
fully.
phone in the
Yeah, yeah,
living room, and he
yeah.
was like, let me tell you something, Vince.
Right.
He's a
So
has a fat head, and it's just
and which means like so and what that does is like the moment like Triple H gets tagged into the match and Marc Mero's already in the match, people are gonna react. The minute Mr. Perfect walks into a match and Marc Mero's already there, people are gonna react because like
mm-hmm.
now like they saw what happened, they hear how upset he is, so now they want to see the result of that. Like
Yeah.
he did a good job of setting up moments in the match to be successful like that
Yes.
down the line because he said it like he even like in his promo like in Kobe, he's like my team knows how badly I want to get my hands on you. They're not gonna let you get away with it. Like they're gonna throw you in the ring every time you try to run. So like
Mm.
there's this like foreboding kind of like something's coming, and
Mm-hmm.
when he gets his hands on them like you want to see it, like you want to know. And like that's the first time I've ever really like ever felt like that as far as like anticipating something that Marc Mero is going to be a part of. Whenever Marc Mero's
Yeah.
in the ring bell to bell, phenomenal.
Amazing.
Am I ever like looking forward to seeing Marc Mero up until this point? Not a ton.
No.
Like I enjoy like his bell to bell like work, but
Yeah, he's
like
amazing.
as far as like the character, like I was like he could win or lose. Like I'm not that invested.
Right.
But this I'm invested in. Like this makes
So,
like he was done dirty like out of the blue and now has a chance to kind of step up and react to that and kind of use it to further himself up the
yeah,
card.
and I'm so here for it. And especially now because like he was at the top for so long. and now he has no title. Now he has like that nothing to lose, like everything's at stake energy, which
Right.
I really love. And I hope and foresee maybe some like interferences like in the next few weeks, like if Triple H is wrestling and like Marc Mero comes
Right.
out, which he never does. Like he's never the one to like come out because he's never really had beef with anybody like that. Like
No.
where he just like kind of comes ringside and like is a nuisance, like just for
Yeah.
the sake of being a nuisance. Like I wonder if those kinds of things will happen. I don't know if Mr. Perfect's ever gonna wrestle, like because Lord no, allegedly he's gonna be at Survivor Series, but I'm
Who
not putting my
knows?
money on it because I've
Because
never
we found
seen
out
it.
that in the following segment, it cuts to like this like little segment of like Mr. Perfect talking about the situation, and
Yeah.
that Gorilla Monsoon had suspended him indefinitely for the kind of incident that had happened the prior week.
Which
Fair, that was some bullshit. Like
BS, because it
honestly,
made Gorilla Monsoon
look
look
like a
dumb.
fool. Yes,
Yes, like
he looked like Boo Boo the Fool. Just he looked like a
exactly.
fool. Just like, yeah, sure, he's injured. He can't do it. Like, you didn't check?
And now, like he's now because now Marc Mero, I'm sure, has issues with Gorilla Monsoon for sanctioning that match out of the blue, like
Right.
for doing all like it's created so many problems, and now
Right.
and someone's gotta, as we
Someone's got to
say,
pay. Someone
eat
got
the
to pay.
shit sandwich 100%. So
Mm.
serves you right.
So that is the match. So the match ends with Crush
Sorry.
crushing Aldo Montoya. In case we thought that there was going to be a different conclusion, there was not.
Poor Aldo Montoya,
And
really
then
just saying.
Crush proceeds to so they were kind of he
Oh
has been
yeah.
getting kind of this feedback from the fans calling him jailbait, which has a
Oh, is that
completely
it said jailbait? I thought it said jailbird.
oh, it did say jailbird.
Because jailbait is different. I
You're
would have
right.
also fought somebody if someone had signs that said
You're
jail. I would have,
so right. You're so right. So
oh
they've
my,
been
because
calling
I was
him
like, wait,
jailbird.
I totally justified what he ended up doing, but no, I thought it was jailbird, but yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I
No.
misspoke. So the crowd has been chanting jailbird at Crush, and he's been just like losing his mind about it. The man can't handle anything apparently. So
Yeah.
he proceeds after the match to pull a security guard out from over the like from the crowd essentially and yanks him into like the aisle up the ramp and just starts beating the hell out of him.
Which
And that's where we like leave it. Like they just like kind of like exit like the segment just being like, oh, they're gonna be lawsuits, and then like he's just beating up the security guard, and then it just cuts to a different segment.
and it was weird because what do they call what do they call, is it an air marshal who like is a passenger on the plane, but then like if something goes amiss they're like I'm an air marshal or whatever, and
Sure.
they're almost like an undercover cop on like a plane.
I guess
um
probably.
that's
Is that
that
what you call it? Melissa McCarthy's like husband
yes, in
was?
Bridesmaids, yes.
Yes. Okay, okay,
And
okay.
she's like, I knew it. But that's kind of like what it felt like, because I thought it was just a normal dude in a blue polo in the crowd,
Right.
and he was like, everybody relax, like stop, and I was like,
Mm,
who is this guy? And then they were like, oh, it's a security guard, and I was like, he looks nothing like a security guard, and why is he sitting in the front row? And
right.
like I guess like they do stand there sometimes like to prevent whatever, but I was like, seems random,
Right.
but sure.
Yeah. So Crush decided to take out his frustrations on a security guard, and we'll see if there are any consequences. I thought that was a bold move, considering the entire premise of this man's character is that he was just released from prison, and that everybody was going to have their eyes on this man, watching him. If I remember correctly, Gorilla Monsoon was talking all this ish about like, yeah, I'll let you back, but like, we're watching you.
Yeah, like yeah, and
Where was anybody watching this man?
and Clarence Mason was the one who was like negotiating him to come back, and
Mm-hmm.
now he might have just watched it all get thrown away.
So we'll see what happens there. He's in the Survivor Series match, so we'll see if
For
he gets like
now.
fined or something. So next we cut to Stone Cold again. We cut to Stone Cold, and he's getting more and more impatient because he thinks it's his time to like kind of finally like have his piece, and they keep telling him like no, like they keep cutting away from him. So like he's slowly like losing his temper. So we find out that the following week that we are going to have a segment live from Brian Pillman's home, and Stone Cold says that he is going to be at Brian Pillman's house next week. He says Brian Pillman forgot to don't trust anybody, that you thought I was your friend. Like, this is business. I am here to make it to the top, and you're just in the way. He went out to like attack Brian Pillman's like raspy voice, saying like nobody cares, like he will show up at his house. Like, it's wild. He's like, nobody cares about this crippled freak. Like, he was losing it.
It was harsh. It was harsh. And I loved it. I'm not gonna lie. And I get it. I get why Stone Cold is so nasty and you just love him for it. Like, you just love him for it. Like, he was doing it and I was like,
yes. And in this segment, the thing that like sold that like absolutely made this whole promo, it was like, I'm gonna do all these things, and what are you gonna do about it, Vince? And he says, not a damn thing, because you're a greedy little promoter, and you know that Bret Hart versus Stone Cold is going to make you so much money, and you just want your cut. And it was just like brutal. Like, and that is the first time. And like, that really, like, you talk about like that wrestlers have like spoken about like their promoter. Like, that's the promoter is supposed to be like this like marionette, like puppet string, like,
yeah, very much like the wizard behind the curtain.
They make them they're the Wizard of Oz in this scenario.
Yes.
So this was very much so Dorothy like pulling the curtain, and it's awkward, but it's so good because it's true to a certain extent. It's like,
yes,
because it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's everything, those best promos have like a little bit of truth in them.
If it has a little nugget of truth, then it's good.
It's so good. And it's just the way that he said it. It was just so cutting. It's just because you're nothing but like a greedy little promoter. Like, you're just trying to cut a check off of my back. And like, so
nothing's gonna happen to me because you wouldn't let it.
Right. Like, and and you're just like, oh, he has a point.
Nothing did happen to him.
Nothing did happen to him. We kind of think we're gonna finally get the Stone Cold Bret Hart segment, and then Bret Hart starts talking and you can't hear anything, so they like quickly cut away, and it is Sunny coming down to the ring in an all red ensemble. It was so good.
Red leather, or red leather, shiny leather, matching like jacket, mini skirt, and then matching red boots. Oh my, even her makeup was snatched. I was like, I know we have beef with her. Yes, but she looked good, and I could never lie. I will give you your flowers. She ate it up. Ate it up.
She looked like $1 million.
$1 million.
She comes down, like, down ringside. She's like, hey. She knew. And she goes, and the most alarming part of all of this is that she goes and sits on Jerry the King Lawler's lap.
As if he needed that.
Voluntarily.
As if he needed that encouragement.
No.
Of her own free will.
Yeah. And kissed him on the cheek twice.
Lipstick on the... You hate to see it.
You really do. Because you know he just loves it so much.
Oh, he loved it way too much. It was really... it was very giving don't stand up.
If you watched it, you heard him panting. Like, it's fine. We know Jerry the King Lawler at this point, and so moving on. So Sunny was out there to watch Billy Gunn versus Freddie Joe Floyd. Billy Gunn has been trying to regain the attention of Sunny, all the while deteriorating his relationship with his tag team partner / brother Bart. The previous match that they had together, Billy Gunn had left Bart just high and dry during the match, just in the middle of a tag team match, was like, nah, I'm done here. We're kind of seeing Billy Gunn for the first time in like singles kind of competition. Sunny says that Billy is, he's the cuter of the two, but she
Lie.
also said like he has that like killer instinct that Bart doesn't have. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? Killer instincts is what gets the championships, which brings the money. So like,
Girl, but you don't have one person on your roster and all of them lost.
right.
So like what do you know about killer? And I was like, don't, whatever.
Right.
I was like,
so that is kind of where we're at with Billy Gunn and Bart. So Bart inserts himself into this match.
And he looked good.
And
I'm just saying.
good. He looked like
He
$1
looked
million.
good. He was
He
wearing
gave
like a cutoff t-shirt and the
Mhm.
jeans and some things were sitting
well
where they should be. And he looked good. I'm just saying.
He comes down and they just get right into it. They start screaming in each other's faces. They're like 2 seconds away from like getting at it. I'm not sure how they ended up like separated. Oh, because like a slew of like referees come out and start like kind of like pushing the two apart. And they listen, it's coming because as Bart is getting pushed up the ramp, Billy is just standing in the ring, just like bring it. So we know that's gonna happen at some point. Because
Love to see it.
If I'm Bart, I'm gonna keep showing up. Like I'm just gonna keep just being a nuisance.
Hey, remember me?
Right.
Love
literally.
it. And also
So,
these matches are in October. So like that they're taking place in October because what was the date? It was October 28th. So like holidays coming up. You're gonna see me at Thanksgiving. So I'll see you there.
Honestly.
I'm happy the boys broke up though. I was waiting on it. So happy.
So once Bart kind of like removes himself from or is removed from the situation, Billy Gunn ends up gaining the upper hand on Freddie Joe Floyd with an atomic leg drop from the second rope, I believe it is. And gets the pinfall victory, which kind of slightly impresses Sonny, much to what end, I don't know. So we'll see where that goes. We know Bart and Billy's coming, so we're just gonna have to wait it out. Next, we get the segment that we have been kind of teasing all day, which is Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold is live from the WWF offices in Connecticut, and Bret the Hitman Hart is coming from Canada. So, basically, the question was posed to Bret Hart, like, some people have said that part of the reason why you have stayed away from the wrestling industry for so long is because there was this looming threat of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, is there any validity like to that? And basically Bret was like no, it was more that I had been wrestling for 12 years straight and needed to take a step away from,
which makes sense.
Yes. The thing about like this segment that was just kind of very that just stood out to me was the kind of juxtaposition of their demeanors.
That is literally what I wrote in my notebook. We didn't even talk about this.
No, not at all.
That is crazy. I literally wrote the word juxtaposition.
Like me?
Okay.
So Bret was so kind of just like monotone, chill, like was not gonna like get riled up. Whereas you see like Stone Cold was like, he's hungry. Stone Cold is mad. Stone Cold is coming to make a point. He is going to make a name for himself by putting down Bret Hart. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because in Stone Cold's mindset, he said, win, lose, or draw, it's not over. I'm going to be on your ass. Like, which means, like, it's not about a wrestling match to Stone Cold. Stone Cold wants to make sure that he ascends up the match card and the top of the roster at the expense of everybody else. And what better way to do that than take the former like face of the company and just stomp that light out. He's coming to make like his return. Stomp that flame before it gets any bigger. He's not playing any games. This man is hungry, and it shows. And it showed extra by how like composed Bret Hart was.
Yes.
Because Bret Hart was so like the veteran in kind of this scenario. He's like, listen, you do say whatever you like have to say. He says, he's like, I don't think you're like ready to kick my ass. I don't think you have the abilities to kick my ass. And it's like he says it so calmly that you're just like, oh, it's a little alarming, because you're just like, he's confident, and it's like a quiet confidence in his ability.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that
Mm-hmm.
usually is like the one you need to fear the most. You know,
So true. Sleeping giant.
it's just going to be such a great match, because you have Stone Cold, who's like gaining all of this momentum, like just barreling towards like superstardom, and you have Bret Hart, who has been this like mainstay of the company, and has been like the person that they were building whole pay-per-views, whole shows, like months of shows around. That's your
Mm-hmm.
champion. So you have these like kind of two wrestlers in very different places in their like careers. But it's like, is Bret Hart good enough to like stave off this like bullet that's like
Mm.
coming at him? You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like, is he on top of his game enough uh to, even with the 12 years of battles, or however many years he's been wrestling prior to being in the WWF, like, does he still have it enough to not only like stave off all of these like challenges, but ascend back to the top? And
Right.
that's kind of what we're being like, that's the question we're kind of being posed with.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. Like,
It's yeah. It's like really it really is so insane because to first of all, like to stomp somebody out for their comeback match would be crazy.
right.
Like there this especially because he was such a giant and he still is. And like if this was is his humongous comeback, like the moment we've been waiting 6 months for, is he coming back? Is he not? Da, da, da. Like is he gonna go to the other network? Like this all of this like build up, and then to have like Stone Cold take him out, that would be wild. Like that would be literally insane. And the fact that this match is even set up is already like the stakes feel so high.
Mm-hmm.
But like you were saying, the juxtaposition between the two of them, it also felt so much like old era versus new era, where it's
Yes.
like the new era is very like it's confident, they're brash, they're like, I'm a good wrestler and I'm not gonna be ashamed to say that. Because even Bret Hart has that like, that like you said, that quiet confidence. And that I feel like that era, a lot of times they'll be like, I mean, he's a great wrestler. Like they always, because he said to Stone Cold, like, I'm not gonna deny, I think you're the best wrestler in the WWF right now until I come back. And Stone Cold's like, well, I don't really care like who you are. Like I
Right.
just know that I'm the shit. And like I just think that energy is so crazy, like that new era versus the old era. You kind of just have to like pick your flavor because you like love the quiet confidence, you love the sleeping giant, you love the like, what's he gonna actually do? Like, what is like, while his hands are like folded in his lap, is he suddenly just gonna like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But then Stone Cold, like you know exactly what you're getting, and you know it's full throttle, it's 100%, it's wild,
Right.
and it's so unhinged. And so you're just like, oh, like I don't even know what I
Right.
want more. Like I don't even know who I want to see come out on top. Like either way, it's insane, and it's setting up for the most insane beef
Mm-hmm.
forever.
And it's fun that
Forever.
you say like the like old, that's like the old versus like the new, because Bret Hart ends up kind of in that role of like representing kind of the way things like used to be done,
Right.
because like, yes, he's like in this like transition, as far as like, yes, he's, young and wrestling during like this time, but he was very much so a product of the old school ways of wrestling, because
Mm-hmm.
he comes from a huge wrestling family, like huge wrestling family with a huge, coming from a huge like Canadian promotion that has been promoting wrestling since like, I want to say like the 40s, the 50s. So like
Wow.
he comes from the old school ways of doing things, and like
Yeah.
his father is like Stu Hart, and it's where a lot of these wrestlers were trained. It's called the Stu Hart's dungeon, the Hart dungeon, and that is essentially like the
Whoa.
basement of their like home. And that's where they trained wrestlers, and it was supposedly like the most brutal way to come up through like a training, like anywhere, because everybody that left, like that ended up leaving um Stu Hart's dungeon, ended up being like master technical wrestlers. You did not leave that like training not being able to like, you do not come out on the other end not being like top 5 best technical
Wow.
wrestlers like out there.
That's
And that was
crazy.
just their reputation, like constantly. So like Pillman came up through there, Bret
Mm-hmm.
Hart, Owen Hart, obviously. Jericho came up through there. Lance Storm came up through there. Like
Wow.
there's a ton of wrestlers that like have passed like through there, and they all are just like very technically sound. So we're kind of seeing Bret Hart kind of fill that role, as far as like being kind of like the stalwart of like the old school, and you're gonna
Mm.
see that juxtaposition happen kind of like more and more, whereas like as the product transitions into something that isn't that, he's very much going to be at odds with like what's going on and the people that are being showcased,
Wow.
because it's very much you're gonna kind of see like, is time gonna pass him by, or is like he good enough to keep it like the way that it is? You know
Oh,
what I mean?
it's so crazy because like you talking about that, it's like there is just so much at stake
Right,
because it's not just the wrestlers, it's like everything that they represent. It's like how do we like you even see like the WWF moving forward, like
right.
what is going to be the flavor, the energy, like
Like
it
they have
really
very different visions of how like, you know, it should be done, and
so
it's going to be, it's great because you need that kind of like, if everybody was just all like gung-ho for the change, like you miss an opportunity for conflict, which, you know,
you always need
cre- cre-
conflict in a wrestling match.
conflict creates television, like it's
Yes.
just facts.
Yep.
So I think they're doing kind of like a great job positioning like certain wrestlers as being like these are the old school ways of doing things,
Hmm.
while simultaneously bringing in like a new crop of people that are going to start pushing the envelopes as far as what we have seen, what we have talked about in the wrestling world, and kind of bringing that more on camera and making it less of a secret,
Mm.
where, you know, it used to be like everything was under wraps, you didn't tell the fans anything, they only came and saw, you know, the show that they paid the tickets like to see. But as, you know, time like progresses and they kind of pull the curtain back and things get a little bit more realistic, it's they find that like people are even more engaged with that. Like we all want to see a backstage segment. We all want a little taste
Yeah.
behind the curtain. We all want to know what it's like
100%.
when the cameras aren't rolling. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
we all want to feel like we're in on the secret. It's gonna be very exciting to kind of see that come to fruition. So
Yeah,
it's a
like
very good time right now.
oh, it's going to be so good. I'm really excited for that.
So we have our main event match next, which is the British Bulldog versus HBK, Shawn Michaels. So Owen Hart joins the British Bulldog down, accompanying him to the ring, and then hops on commentary. Um, Essentially, this match is fantastic. First of all, this is
Amazing.
not the first time that they've crossed paths, obviously.
Mhm.
They had a pay-per-view match for the WWF Championship months ago.
Mhm.
We know that, you know, the British Bulldog is the powerhouse of this like dynamic,
Mhm.
and we kind of get Owen Hart on commentary, just really doing a great job of um just playing this like little bratty, jealous, loathsome,
Yes.
like, you know, like very much like just like brat character.
And I actually loved it. It's
It,
so weird because it was done so well that
right.
even though because I love HBK, and even though he was like, trying to take him down a peg and like
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
I was like, I actually really did not mind him on commentary at all. I feel like he
No,
fit
he's
in really
entertaining.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was very entertaining. It
He
was
knew how to
great.
like pick his spots. You know what I mean? Like he's like
Yes.
he's and it's great because it's just like, oh, like the things that he takes gripe with Shawn Michaels about are like the things you'd expect him to take gripe about,
Of
because like
course.
that man like gets into the ring, it you know, he comes from the dungeon, it's technical, like he is a just a phenomenal wrestler. Like I will bend you into a pretzel and then like pat you on the head and send you on your way. So like
Mhm.
the showboating, the like arrogance,
Striptease.
is all stuff that you would expect him to take umbrage with. Like it's stuff that like would bother him.
Of
So it
course.
all makes sense that like his commentary was just so good because it's just like he is such a brat. Like he plays that bratty character so well that like of course he would be annoyed by Shawn Michaels because
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels is the popular guy in your school. He's the guy that gets
Yep.
all the girls. He's the one that has all the attention. He's the class clown. So like if you're somebody that like puts out all of this excellent work all the time and like you feel like that guy's just getting the most attention because he's the loudest, you're gonna have that like like that
Mm-hmm.
bratty like jealousy. And I think
Yeah.
it just worked out so well. Like he does such a good job.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of gave like older younger sibling dynamic where it's like older sibling like perfect straight A student
Right.
like and like the younger sibling just like me, and everyone only knows you as like this person's like little brother. And
Right.
I know he already has that complex, right? Because Brett is his older brother. So
But
like
now
it also,
he like copy pastes it to like
yes, he
different
like projected
scenarios.
it. He was like, well, Brett's on here, man, and like put it
Right.
on
Right.
Shawn Michaels. But his name does come up. He goes like, don't talk. Vince brought up his brother and was like, don't talk about my brother. I'll puke.
Yeah,
It's like,
I was like, oh my god.
it was great though.
No, it was so funny. No, it was
Yeah,
fantastic. But you're just like,
amazing.
of course,
Of
yes,
course. I'll puke.
obviously. So during this little segment, we find out that the studio that Stone Cold was coming live from had called the police because he had attacked members of the production staff
He threw this
by
little old man
into a ladder
into
and then chucked those like mobile stairs that like you move around like stages to like move lighting equipment and whatnot.
basically a bigger ladder.
Just yeeted it on top of this man and then just starts like whiling. So apparently the cops were called on Stone Cold Steve Austin and they're like, oh, we'll like give you updates like as we like see fit. So then it cuts back to the match and Shawn Michaels is just he is selling like a mofo in this one.
Like a
This
mother.
this dude, I'm telling like there's one
Unbelievable.
point where the British Bulldog just picks him up and just hangs Shawn Michaels over the top rope. And the way that he like flings himself like backwards looks like just it's I told as if you're saying, I was like, it looks like he got struck by lightning and was projected backwards.
Yep.
He's does such a good job of selling. And like the thing is, like, he used to get a lot of flack for overselling that way because the argument was that like you're not going to look strong like as a champion, you're not going to look imposing like if you let these people like beat you up all of the time. But what we get as a result of that is Shawn Michaels had the kind of wherewithal and the kind of forward thinking to be like, no, you know what looks really intelligent, or like, you know what looks really tough is getting your ass kicked for 98% of the match and still coming back and coming out on top.
Hello.
He had the like, and that's the thing is like, you look at any plot point of like movies, like your characters does not just win the entire time. Like essentially your character's losing like your main
Until the
character
last.
until the last little bit.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, like it's storytelling. And he was the kind of like, he was such a good wrestler in regards of being understanding that like he was telling a story. So
Yep.
he got a lot of flack for being like, oh, like you're not going to look like a tough champion. But he understood. He's like, I'm a smaller wrestler. It's not going to be realistic that I'm like muscling over all of these people. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, he says like, if we both look good at the end of the day, that's a win. He says, I should be able to make the other person look good and make myself look better as the champion. Like I should be able to do both and not have a problem with that. You don't need to bury somebody, get yourself forward. He was very much this like of the notion like, if we just put on a fantastic match, people aren't going to remember that like he got his ass handed to him for like the majority of the match. They're going to remember that he took a beating and then came back and then that's the toughness you remember. That's not like, you're not going to remember the minutia of every move and hold leading up to the victory. You're going to remember the big moments of the match, the elements of a match that make you kind of like you know, like when things get like turned around. Like, so
Yep.
he was kind of like ahead of his time and really understanding like this is a story, and like you can use basic storytelling narrative as far as like the way your story is like planned out, because it works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it works. You get this
It
like,
is a foolproof
I
formula.
was like, this is like the hero trope to a
The
T.
hero arc, yes.
Like I was like, it's tried and true, and he understood like that's how you do. That's how you tell a story, and
Yep.
like it just shows in the way that he sells and the way that he like times things. It's just something that is an intangible that you can't really instill. I think you really have to like
Yes.
understand the like when to kind of like put the gas on, like when to like press the gas pedal, when to like take it off. And I think no, like very few wrestlers understand that better than Shawn Michaels.
100%. And it makes him more relatable.
Correct.
Like it makes him so relatable. You feel it's so human. Like that he's not just like you said, winning all the time. Like he really goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you more endeared to him as like your champion of the
Right.
WWF. You're like, oh yeah, like that's my guy. Like underdog always comes out on top. Like he's not afraid. He, takes a licking, keeps on sticking.
Right.
Like it just makes him more endearing. You just believe in his story. Like
Right.
it works every single time. And you do. Like I freaking believe in him. I'm
Right.
like,
No,
he's gonna come
exactly.
back. He's gonna come back.
Right. And so we get a interference from Owen Hart in this match where Shawn Michaels looks like he is going to come out on top. He gets the elbow drop on the British Bulldog and is going for the sweet chin music when Owen Hart jumps off of commentary and grabs his legs, thus giving Shawn Michaels the disqualification victory. Which of course then leads to another 2-on-1 kind of situation. This time, Psycho Sid is the one that comes out, and we have some issues. Essentially, during
Issue.
this little altercation, where Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid are fighting off the tag team champions, there is a little skirmish between the two because as Psycho Sid is trying to, I don't know who is he fight
He's
attacking, like
fighting
the
Owen, I think.
Owen, he accidentally hits Shawn Michaels in the back,
Yeah.
which then creates kind of this like really heated argument between the two, and we start seeing we're like, oh, it's starting to deteriorate. We're like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is what we've been kind of teasing the last couple of weeks, like it's coming. So they start getting into each other's faces, they're like screaming, and then we kind of get pulled out of it because Owen Hart decides that he's going to challenge the two of them to a tag team championship match next week on Raw, thus kind of prolonging the eventual split of Shawn and Psycho for another week. I
Yeah.
think we're going to see something go down next week in that
It
match.
has to.
So, yeah.
That's just a poorly. I'm sorry. Like I love Shawn Michaels. I love Psycho Sid, and I do want to say the British Bulldog in this episode or in this match was outstanding. He
Oh,
was
outstanding.
amazing. I mean,
He
he is
looks
every time.
really good.
He was
No.
amazing. But like this challenge is so seemed silly to accept because it's like okay, the British Bulldog and Owen Hart like are the tag team champions. They fight together all the time. Like they're together just generally all the time. Like they have that
Mm-hmm.
they're just a good team.
Right.
And like you're giving yourself, Shawn Mike HBK and Psycho Sid, a week's notice with a to formulate a good enough tag team scenario that you could beat the champions, the
Mm-hmm.
long reigning champions.
Right.
And when there's already tension and miscommunication between the two of you.
Right. But
It
that's
just
like,
seems like it's getting set up for failure and like
no,
it's
it
gonna be
is.
the moment the cork pops. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things shit's just gonna hit the fan, which like makes total sense, but they're like,
It
yeah,
feels a
like
little
meh.
spoon feedy to us.
Yes, because
Yes.
it's like a week's notice.
Right.
A week.
So we kind of know there's going to be more of a breakdown between the two
Mm-hmm.
because right now they're still a little too friendly for my terms to be heading into a main event pay-per-view match.
Yep.
So we get that, and then it cuts to it cuts to Stone Cold Steve Austin yelling at like the producer guy, like that's asking him to leave the building, basically being like, you're not going to do anything. Vince McMahon is not going to let anything happen to me. So like whatever. And then he turns the corner and sees all of the police lights, and he turns around to the guy. He's like, you did this, didn't you?
Did you do this?
And then
Did
he
you do
storms
this?
outside and he's like, what are you guys doing here? Just like yelling at the police.
To 4 cop cars filled with officers.
He's like, what are you doing here? And like, that's when the episode ends.
It was great.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
It was great.
So
he's the definition of like, I'm gonna mess around, but you're gonna find out.
No, 100%.
Like you're gonna find
100%.
out.
100%.
I love it.
So we are barreling towards the Survivor Series pay-per-view. It's going to be fantastic. The big takeaway from this match was that Stone Cold Steve Austin is on the rise. Mm-hmm. This man is coming into his own, and he is going to wreck the WWF.
I can't wait.
So that's coming, and I feel like we're just getting like exciting episode after exciting episode. I think a lot of things as far as what is going to become the like Attitude Era that we know and love, all of those seeds are starting to get like seeded today, like in this time. So we're starting to see like Bret Hart has returned, Stone Cold is coming into his own, Mark Henry has debuted, Farouk's got a change coming, The Rock is on his way. There's a lot of pieces that are going to be very, very exciting in the like near-ish future, which is fun. And next week we're going to get an iconic segment at Brian Pillman's house.
I am so scared because the way you've set it up, I'm like, I feel like this is going to be traumatic. A
lot of wrestling fans know this segment, and I'm very excited for you to watch it for the first time.
Because I've never seen any of this. Like, I've never even seen a hint. I've never seen an inkling. I've never seen a clip. Like, not a thing. I have no idea what we're getting into. Not a clue.
So tune in next week when we get the infamous segment at Brian Pillman's home. And thank you for watching. We appreciate it as always, and we will catch you next week right here on the New to Wrestling podcast.
We'll see you then. Bye.